Broadcasting to you on WNN 1470 AM and TrentoVision.tv from the world's leading think tank laboratory, buried deep in an undisclosed building in hostile territory where evil and corruption is exposed. You're about to enter the Tom Trento Show.
All hands maggot battle station.
Trento heads United West, a group that says it defends Western civilization against the onslaught of Islam.
There are few words in the English lexicon that stir up emotion, aggravation, symbolism as the word betrayed, particularly when you're dealing with the United States government. But today, on today's show, Thursday, the 18th of July here, just a couple of minutes after 5 o'clock on the East Coast. We're going to get into the betrayal of the United States government as it relates to the war on terror, the high cost of this war on terror, and how the United States government, several administrations, in particular this administration, has failed indeed, betrayed not only Americans, but specifically American soldiers. Hi, everybody. Tom Trento here on this Thursday. CJ, are you here, CJ?
I'm here.
Are you there? You are. We have Mark back there with us. Damon's over there. Imam Abdullah, you with us?
I am here again.
Okay,
Yes,
good. Well,
yes.
Oh, happy Ramadan, by the way.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, thank you. I've
Yeah,
just
happy
been very
Ramadan.
tired.
Here's your
and hungry.
Ramadan right here, Abdullah.
Yeah.
But
Ramalonga ding dong.
folks, if you're driving in your automobiles in South Florida, you're listening on our 50,000-watt flagship radio station, WNN 1470 on your dial. But through the magic of technology, we're able to come to you on your television screens, on your television. Plug your computer into your television. You can watch us on your big screen TV. If you don't want to carry that thing around with you, you can take your laptop. If you don't want to carry that, you can take your pink iPhone like this. Watch us on pink, I think any color.
Or your
iPhone.
plaid iPad.
Or
I'm
your
surprised that your next guest will actually be a guest on your show with all that stuff on your desk.
All that pink little
General Schmenerals. It's the new U.S. Army.
Yeah.
Where anything goes. Don't ask, don't tell is out the window. Anything goes. So, but hi, everybody. Tom Trento. Hi, Tea Party community. Great friends there. They have our show on their homepage every day. Ken Crow, Tim Saletti, Jan Morgan doing great work. Please be sure if you're not by a visual device or you can't watch, you're driving, iHeartRadio. Go to our YouTube channel, youtube.com/TheUnitedWest. All our shows are archived there. Hit the red button that says subscribe. Tune in 6 o'clock to
6 a.m.
Steve, 6 a.m. in the morning.
6 a.m. to 9 a.m.
Steve
so if
and
you
Brian,
can't get up at 6, you
starting
can
the day
listen
out.
at 7.
And for those of you just tuning in for the first time, our audience is growing every day. More viewers, more listeners. We're hitting tens of thousands of people a day and millions, literally millions per month with all of our material we put out. I direct an organization called The United West. Oh, yeah, there it is.
that big organization.
Our wrinkly banner behind us. The reason why we left it wrinkly, it's the battle scars of what you say about a flag.
Oh, I said if you had a flag that was torn or tattered from battle, you wouldn't repair it.
No, you wouldn't. And our flag, our banner right there, we don't want it unwrinkled. We want you to experience the symbolism of the tough fight we're in.
No,
Donate securely. Get us a new banner that's not wrinkled, okay? But
Please donate securely.
Please donate securely.
Yesterday's show, we dealt with the words of Benjamin Netanyahu, Prime Minister of Israel, and his tipping point, his "it's going to happen soon" kind of message about the necessity to attack Iran. In the latter part of this show, we'll get into a little more of that. Tomorrow, Friday, the 19th, Jumpin' Juma Freaky Friday. We have a Muslim gentleman who doesn't want to come on the show, but he had a pretty aggressive email exchange with me, and we're gonna share some of his emails. He wrote a book, How to Wipe Jews Off the Face of the Earth.
I love this man.
But he didn't use the word Jews. He used the word Zionists.
Same thing.
How to
Those
wipe
Zionists
Zionists off the face of the earth. So we're going to look at that tomorrow on Jumpin' Juma Freaky Friday.
By the way, if you live in the Orlando area and you are a Zionist supporter, you might want to check out an event held by the Zionistas in Orlando, a fine group of Jewish and Christian Zionists who are meeting on Sunday, and you can RSVP or get more information at zionistas1@gmail.com. Just send an email to zionistas1@gmail.com and you can get more information.
Okay.
And at 6 minutes after 5 o'clock on Thursday, the 19th, I mentioned yesterday that Secretary of State Alexander Haig said at one point that he loved Israel. And he said, Israel's like a gigantic aircraft carrier in the middle of the Mediterranean, manned by a military. And if Israel was not there, he said, we would have to have not one, but probably two on station all the time in the Middle East, and have it manned and staffed and supplies and spend billions of dollars a year. So we need to be thankful for the Israelis that have put themselves in the middle there.
Yes.
And we have somebody that's somewhat familiar with the
lily pad strategy.
The lily pad strategy, the military, and he's our good friend, been with us many times on the show, as our other guests have been. But this particular individual, I think it was in 1961, got his sheepskin from that place upstate New York, West Point, then went on for 33, 34 years to serve as a distinguished Major General, concluding as a Major General. That's big-time stuff, folks. And he spent a couple of tours in Vietnam, that war back then. Then served his country in many different ways, and with a good portion, about 15 of those years, in the area of special operations. And as a result, Major General Paul Vallely has become, to this day, one of the elders. No, that's not a good term.
No,
senior wise people. What do we want to call them? I don't know. Where is he? Is he out there somewhere?
I call him General Honey.
General Honey. Where's General Paul Vallely?
He's right
I'm
here.
here. I'm in my bunker in Montana.
Ah, there he
There
is,
he
right
is.
there.
Okay.
Good
And I
afternoon,
must
General.
say, you look fabulous.
Yeah, your shirt fits you today, unlike the jacket that was in Washington, D.C. that day.
You remember that? Well, I had a good workout this morning. Swim, steam, shave. I got my hair coiffed for you, and I'm all ready to go. I know Karen Vaughn is taking good care of Billy back there to get him all prepped with makeup. He needs a lot of makeup. The guy does.
He does.
Well, there he is.
There he is.
He's on
He's right there
screen-
next to you.
He's on the screen left. And for our donors and friends, 2 people being Skyped in at once, folks.
Ooh.
Pretty cool.
That costs extra.
That costs
I
extra.
would just
you're
like to
getting bonus
say,
dollars here, and you get graphics too.
We're stepping up the game here.
Yeah.
Let me tell you.
Evolution.
Yeah. And the show is really having an impact around, because we do the show live now, and then we send it out, and it gets a lot of people moving and active. You guys have a phenomenal message. We've been following this since, sadly, August 6, 2011. I was a guest speaker in DeLand, Florida, Saturday morning at a conservative conference, and I put the TV on very early, and I heard that a helicopter had gone down with a lot of U.S. military. I went downstairs, and before I spoke, I said, hey, folks, this is not good. We got a bad situation in Afghanistan. Be praying. Little that I know, or any of us know, that as fate would have it, as providence would have it, we would be drawn together, the three of us here, our organization, Billy Vaughn and the General, and many others, to at a unique moment in history, to awaken America to a serious problem. Billy Vaughn, hi Billy, how are you doing? Welcome to the show.
I'm doing fine, Tom, and how are you?
Good, good. And if your wife is around, we say hello to her. General, let's start with you. A book just came out. We had heard rumblings. You guys kept this very quiet. We heard rumblings of a book, and we got the press release. We got you guys here immediately. The book is on our screen right now. It's entitled Betrayed, Exposing the High Cost of the War on Terror. General Vallely, tell us a little bit about what the book is about and your involvement in it, and then we'll go to Billy.
Well, I'll take the last question first, Tom. Over a year ago, Billy and Karen and I started to communicate on the Extortion 17 tragedy in the Tangi Valley of Afghanistan, when we lost so many on one chopper. And he had told me his interface with the government officials and authorities that had briefed he and Karen from the time the bodies came back to Dover, with subsequent relations between the military and the parents, trying to work them through this tragedy. And so as Billy went through this, he and Karen, they both developed a number of questions. Things just didn't seem right about what they were being told. And so Billy had sent me a number of documents to look through that had been provided him. And over the course of the year, Karen has dedicated herself to do a book just on Aaron, to tell his life story. And after we met, Billy and I and Karen decided we'd do a separate book talking about not only Aaron and the other brave warriors on that aircraft, but also the facts of what happened, why it happened, and why certain things didn't happen. And as we went through this process, we found out that there were a tremendous amount of deception and lies, cover-ups, that it felt necessary to go forward and to pursue an investigation, an analysis of the facts, and that led us then to coming to putting together a book. And so we started working on this, Billy, I guess about 2 or 3 months ago. And so it has been officially launched in a pre-order status right now, and that website is www.specialopsbetrayed.com, where the book can be pre-ordered, and it will be out in August. And I think it's going to be a very revealing book, not only about Aaron and the other warriors, but about what happened and didn't happen in the Tangi Valley on August 11th, 2011. So Billy, why don't you go ahead and tell basically how we got together, maybe, and why we're doing this.
Billy, why don't you, Billy, do
Go
this
ahead.
too. It's 13 minutes after 5 o'clock on this beautiful Thursday, 19th July. The people that follow our show are pretty familiar with you and your wife and the General. But we're getting new people all the time. This show goes all over. Why don't you take a couple of minutes and sketch out what happened on August 6, 2011,
Yes.
and what's the foundation for this book and the work ahead?
Okay, Tom. Thank you, General. Yes, on August 6, 2011, Army Rangers had gone out earlier in the evening to capture a high-value target, according to the military, Kari Tahir. The operation was named Objective Lefty Grove. As the general said, it was in the Tangi River Valley, Wardak Province, Afghanistan. In the midst of that operation, sometime while it was underway, after about 3 hours, they had decided to deploy or bring in a QRF or an IRF. It's called both in the testimony: immediate reactionary force or quick reactionary force, and that's where the SEALs came into play. The choppers that had gone out and delivered the Rangers had gone back to the FOB and sat waiting to come exfil the Rangers after their op was over, but the plan was changed, and they decided because some of the people had escaped toward the other end of the valley to bring in Navy SEALs and Afghan commandos to apprehend or to engage those people. And so as the SEALs came in, 17 Navy SEALs, 5 SEAL team support, 3 Air Force special operations, and a flight crew of 5 from the U.S. Army and the U.S. National Guard. About 100 to 150 feet in the air, traveling about 58 knots, according to the military. The chopper was struck on a blade on the aft pylon, shearing off about 10.5 feet of that blade, according to the military, causing the aft pylon to be terribly out of balance, which immediately it became disengaged from the chopper, which led, according to the military, to the front pylon being disengaged. The chopper fell immediately and fell straight to the earth and exploded in flames, killing all the warriors on board. And one of them, of course, was our boy Aaron Vaughn. And about a month late, in October of that same year, we were brought in. The families, the spouses, the parents were brought into Little Creek, Virginia, to be given a debriefing. And we learned 2 very disturbing things that day. First of all, they were flying on a National Guard helicopter because there were not enough 160th Aviation SOAR, Special Operation choppers or crews available because of the stepped up number of operations. The second thing is that when the chopper was shot down, even though we had an AC-130 gunship and 2 AH-64 Apaches in the air, they did not take out the men who fired the RPGs. 3 RPGs were fired. They did not take them out from the tower that they were located in because it was explained to us the rules of engagement. There could be friendlies in the building below the tower, so that couldn't be risked. So we left there with those questions, those 2 questions, which in the meantime since then has led us to discover a lot of other things that are very troubling about this mission and about the strategy and the things that are going on in Afghanistan and the rules of engagement that our men are fighting under. And as the general told you, I got in contact with the general well over a year ago, and then back in January we got together again and began to talk regularly. And it was at that time, sometime mid-January, that the general and I and the others involved with us now decided that we would try to do a book on that. And then in the months, after that, we began to push harder, and now the book's nearly ready to come out.
Wow. A book is like giving birth.
I know.
No, it really is.
What a story.
Can I ask Billy a question?
Sure, yeah, of course.
Billy, hi, it's CJ.
Hey.
Tell us a little bit about Aaron. And he was a member of SEAL Team 6, and some people might not know what that means. Can you go into that a little bit?
Well, I'll tell you, CJ. I will tell you as much as I know. There's a lot that we don't know. We know about what that really means. We know that as far as the SEAL teams go, that 6 and General, correct me if I'm wrong, but that 6, commonly called DevGRU, and Delta Force from the Army, I believe, are our country's Tier 1 units. and the other SEAL teams are Tier 2. And so Aaron he'd been on SEAL Team 1 for years and years, and in fact an instructor. And Aaron probably should have never been a SEAL under normal conditions, because he had torn his ACL in high school, and he'd wanted to be a SEAL growing up, but he had given up on that dream after two failed surgeries. But then when 9/11/2001 happened, Aaron came to his mom and I after on his 21st birthday, and in June of 2002, and said, I've joined the SEAL Challenge program, and I've got to do something. This is my dream. It was before, but even now more, since our country has been attacked. And I explained to him, son, you won't make it as a SEAL. You're going to be stuck on a boat if you don't make it as a SEAL. And he said, Dad, I'm not going to be on a boat. I believe I can make it as a SEAL. And he started doing special exercises to build up the muscle around his ACL. And indeed he did. As I said, he was a member of SEAL Team 1 up until 2010 when he screened for DevGru. And he had made one previous deployment with DevGru, augmented in as they do SEALs from other units from time to time. And then, but from that point on, he had been part of one of the most elite assault forces, I guess, that our world has ever seen. And not much information, is given out about them. We didn't have a lot of information. We've learned more since Aaron died than we ever knew before when he was alive.
There's a million stories here, folks. At 21 minutes after 5 o'clock on the 19th, Thursday, there's the story that Billy just laid out as a result of CJ's question regarding the operator, this top tier 1 operator, Aaron Vaughn. And more has come out about the SEALs, particularly SEAL Team 6. I think it was 90 days after, something like 90 days after SEAL Team 6 killed Osama bin Laden on May 1st, on August 6th, that this Extortion 17 went down. Yeah. So there's the human interest story of a son.
Not a coincidence of these same people being betrayed so quickly.
I think that's going to be the book. But there's a story here of Billy losing a son, who that's an issue in and of itself, but a son who's part of a top-tier special forces. And the general who's involved also lost a son who was in training for special forces just a few years ago. So these guys are united by a common bond that nobody wants to be united by, losing a son.
It's not a club you
want
to join.
No, you don't want to join that club. And number 2, as patriots trying to tell a story to save America. What is the thesis of the book?
Well, let me. It's two-part. Thesis tell the story, of course, of Aaron and SEAL Team 6 and the Warriors, but also how our government is organized, and their thought process, and the politicalization of our military. That theme of incompetence, ineptness, a poorly planned mission, a poor strategy, what we call counterinsurgency, and then the derivation of tactics that come about trying to win the hearts and minds of the people rather than going in and achieving victory and returning to home base. So there's a lot of things mixed in this book which really unveil a tremendous amount of ineptness, poor planning, poor strategy on the part of our officials in Washington, from the White House to the Defense Department to CIA to the State Department. And so this is not a political book. We understand that many of the situations were created even under Bush. The restrictive rules of engagement even started there. The Muslim outreach program started under Bush. And so the coin strategy that General Petraeus, General McChrystal had followed, which we have said for a long time was a poor strategy. This was always an unconventional war. We should never have been put into a situation to take our armed forces and do nation building in the Middle East. And another thing that goes through it, and I'll just repeat this, and I've done it on many programs, Tom, I think years before. My Middle East expert is a Lebanese colonel, and he told me way back when we started covering Afghanistan in the fall of 2001, he said, make sure you tell the generals and admirals, do not put bases in the Middle East, do not engage in warfare other than using proxies or an unconventional warfare strategy. He said, because the Middle East will just soak up, like a sponge, all the human and financial resources you put into it. So here we are today in 2013, looking at all those bridges that have occurred, leading us up to Benghazi now. And what we say is before Benghazi, there was Extortion 17.
Yeah,
so this weaves a web that I think the American people need to know about. And when you weave that web and that network and a country that has gone off in the wrong direction and officials that actually lie, deceive the American public, and that started, as you remember, even back with the case of Pat Tillman, the young ranger we lost in Afghanistan in 2004. So we want to tell the story, we want to stick with the facts and let people draw their own conclusions. And Billy will tell you at the end of the book, there's still questions unanswered. And that's a focus of a continuation that's got to be done on the investigation, just like Benghazi, to get these answers to come. I would say the individuals responsible to come forth, tell the American the truth, and to make sure we divulge the truth, and be brave enough people in this country that we're not shielding, not covering up, not deceiving the American people, and particularly the families.
All right, hey, Mark, leave that picture up there. Billy, we have the picture of the book right now on the screen at 27 minutes after 5 o'clock, folks. Tom Trento, CJ, the Trento crew here. We have Billy Vaughn, whose son, Aaron Vaughn, SEAL Team 6 operator, was killed August 6, 2011. We have Major General Paul Vallely. We're discussing their new book. Billy and General Vallely got together and did an analysis of the warriors on Extortion 17 and on the high cost of the war on terror, exposing it. Billy, you can tell a book by its cover. Yeah. Your cover has betrayed. I mean, gigantic words like a billboard, betrayed. Then you have an American flag with bullet holes through it. What does the betrayed point to? What is it referencing, the betrayed?
Who's betrayed?
Well, we believe that, in fact, we're sure that our military forces, our men and our women, our fighting men and women, are being more than compromised. We talked along the lines of compromise, but betrayed fits what's going on a lot better. Our men, our women, our special operators have the will, they have the training to go in and as General Vallely said earlier, make short work of the enemy and come home. But instead they're being the SEALs and the Rangers are being made do things through policy that I don't believe they were ever trained to do. Aaron was trained to defeat the enemy in a lot of different ways, and even in ways if they had to they had to come up with their if a situation called for it where they might have to change in the middle of the road, but now we're being told, when I say we, I do mean specifically we were told in that same debriefing that I told you where the parents and the spouses were brought in by a 3-star admiral. When asked a question by a father, why didn't we use a drone strike that night? I'm not saying whether we should have or shouldn't, but a 3-star admiral turned to the parents and to the spouses and said, because we want to win their hearts and minds. And I know my son, the general's son, our men who join this military, they join to defend our republic. It's somebody else's job to win the hearts and minds. And when we alter their mission, their operations like this, then we lead to unnecessary sacrificing of their lives. And Extortion 17 is not just an isolated incident that happened one time and it won't ever happen again. Extortion 17 is the result of a pattern, an ideology, a strategy that's been adopted first, I believe, and here again, General, you can tell me if I'm wrong on this, but I believe adopted first by our government, by our politicians, by our elected officials, and then has bled down, and has filtered down into the DOD, and then down into the Pentagon, and then down into the flag officers, and is working its way down and is infecting the whole military. Therefore, that's why we came up with betrayed. They're living by rules. They're dying by rules of engagement that they haven't been trained by. They're being compromised in Afghanistan by an enemy whose very religion and ideology itself says, deceive the people you're working with, do whatever you have to do to achieve the means. And so we know the green on blues are taking place like crazy, but yet it doesn't appear to me as a citizen that our military or our government is willing to tell the truth, to make that hard conversation that this is actually a method of the enemy. It's actually a way that it's not by accident, that it's by design. This is a way to break the will of the people that they're engaged against.
All right, well, wait, we got a lot of stuff going on here. Everybody wants to ask you guys questions. We have the time to do that. And we're gonna approach this issue several different ways. But by way of review, at 32 minutes after 5 o'clock, here on TrentoVision.tv, you're watching it on your computer, or you're listening on iHeartRadio, or you're listening on WNN 1470. If you are listening or watching, we want you to tell your friends about this show. This show in particular, you can go to youtube.com/TheUnitedWest. It's the name of our organization. Today's date, 19 July, Thursday. You can take that link and email it out. All of America needs to hear Billy Vaughn and Major General Paul Vallely on Extortion 17. It came before Benghazi, folks. Yeah. Last night, I was watching a special on the military channel. I think it was called Eyewitness War or whatever. They put
awesome, unbelievable coverage.
Yeah, it is. They put helmet cams on some of the grunts. I mean, these are 25-year-old, hardened, combat veteran 25-year-olds who've been deployed 3, 4, 5 times. And this one mission, they're going to take Antenna Hill. And when they get up there, there were 4 Taliban in the complex, the radio station. And the Taliban, they were unarmed. They surrendered. But the 25-year-old sergeant stated a fact of life, a fact of war that this administration does not understand. He said, "You can't trust anything these people say. They could smile, they'll be your friend, they'll be nice. You can't trust anything about them. Nothing can be trusted." And yet when you take this, win their hearts and minds, as opposed to defeat them into submission, you get this confused situation that is, folks, is a betrayal. Let's start with the lady, then we'll go to Mark, then we'll go to Dame.
Okay.
Go ahead. Because she'll beat me up here. She can kick me.
I'm going to kick his butt.
Yeah,
okay.
She's done that quite often, actually.
The bridge to Benghazi, I think a lot more people are familiar with what happened in Benghazi than are familiar with what happened with the downing of this helicopter.
Extortion 17.
Okay.
Yeah.
It looks to me like this administration, this military, Department of Defense, has a specific policy in place that Americans are not to defend themselves, whether they're servicemen and women or whether they're protecting American citizens abroad. how do the rules of engagement relate to that? What is going on with the military, and why would anybody in command of troops in the military actually put their own troops in deliberate harm's way? I don't get it.
Ask the general.
Let me take it back
We
historically.
need a general here. Is there a general in the house?
Is there a general in the house who can answer this?
Well, I think so. Am I still on?
Yeah, you're
Yeah.
on. Yeah.
Okay. If you go back historically, even back to the Roman legions, the Roman commanders and the politicos, even in Rome, determined many times the political aspects of a war. And so at that time, many of the rules of engagement were decentralized. They were down to the commanders on the ground to make a decision, what villages to go into, what kind of arms to use, who identifying the enemy. So the rules of engagement have sometimes been around for forever. World War II, basically, we had it decentralized to the point where we had great division commanders, great battalion commanders, company commanders on the ground in Europe and throughout the Pacific. And they could establish basically the rules of engagement that they needed on the ground in their area of operation to function and defeat the enemy. Well, then we came to Korea, and more politics got involved, and everybody may remember historically the confrontation between President Truman and General MacArthur. MacArthur wanted to do one thing military strategically. Truman didn't want to, and that created a problem. Then that transcended into Vietnam, which I was involved in, which became really the first war where so many rules of engagement were put on the forces over there. We had McNamara and Johnson in the White House actually approving bombing missions over in North and South Vietnam. We had the lawyers getting involved at that time, judge advocates. And so it just has, from that time, gotten to the point now where they have lawyers on the ground in the command center deciding what the commanders should do or not to do, or put a kibosh on it and say, well, we better not do that. That might violate a certain law or someplace. So it has gotten so convoluted that our SEALs and our combat troops are put into a situation, whether it be in the air or on ship or on the ground, that we can't even say victory anymore. So the whole strategy is wrong. This whole submission to these inept political leaders who don't understand the military and for the most part never served in it are making the decisions that are causing the deaths and the wounding of so many of our fine and precious young men and women. So now is a point, I would say, it's enough is enough. We have got to change the way we do business in protecting America. We've got to have the commanders that we trust that can, if we have to go to war to protect ourselves or a threat against America and the people, that we have the wherewithal. We have the minds that know how to deal with it, analyze the situation, defeat the enemy, come back home, and not create all these bases all over the world. I mean, we can hit any target any time using the lily pad strategy. Doesn't mean we don't have certain bases, but they have to be in friendly countries, or as we call black bases, which can work out of undisclosed locations. So we just need to re-ramp and redo the whole military thing again. It's gotten so bad, and then you've got Obama is desecrating the military along with his appointees, that now we're being hollowed out. They're going to do another 20% cut, I guess, of the headquarters in the Pentagon. Of course, that needed to be cut back quite a bit a while ago, as even my friend Alan West would say, and he came up with a good plan for that, by the way. So we're in a situation now, it's a conundrum. We live in a sea of ambiguity in the battle space area. We have rules of engagement, for example, restricting when we can shoot or not shoot, when we can fire on a hostile situation, knowing full well that the Taliban and Al-Qaeda use the local population. They move into their homes, into their villages. They attack from there. But yet we say, as Billy pointed out, that there may be friendlies in the area when 3 Taliban are on top of a roof firing RPGs at basically an unarmed helicopter coming in. Right. And that's why one of the fallacies of the planning of Extortion 17 In Vietnam, Billy pointed out HLZs, hot landing zones. A hot landing zone is one that's basically enemies in the area. They can take the helicopter force coming in, fire on it, take it out.
Right.
That's why you always use suppressed fires. You always have pre-fires that basically neutralize that landing zone so the choppers can come in, offload, and then proceed with their mission. This was not the case on Extortion 17.
We're gonna.
I want to follow up, but I know everybody else has questions.
We'll have the general back regularly, and Billy, because we want to establish the lily pad concept of asymmetric warfare right now. But I've noticed, Mark, and then you ask your question. I've noticed a unique flip-flop. Whereas the United States has the unbelievable sophisticated technology to do virtually anything from a military perspective, but we're losing the will to fight. And the enemy, Islamic jihadis, have nothing technologically, but they have the will to fight.
Right.
And you know what? Where are you going to put
And
your
they
money?
count on us not to fight back and not to defend ourselves. The Navy SEALs don't need to be in Afghanistan building schools. Okay.
Mark,
Yeah. I got a quick. It's either for Billy or for General, whoever wants to answer this. But looking at this from
I don't think your mic's on.
looking at this from a military perspective and red teaming it from the other side, what could you do as the enemy any more than what they are already doing to get our soldiers killed? If I'm a jihadi and I'm a jihadi leader, what as thinking like them, are they doing? Is America doing everything correctly like we want them to do, or what?
Well, let me answer that first, and then Billy can address it as well. When you create a situation where you're including Taliban infiltrators into the command area, and we see the number of green on blue attacks, when you include them in the briefings, and you know that they're tied to a tribal village area, that they'll in fact relay the information of what the United States is doing. We give the enemy away all of that because of these rules of engagement and this inclusiveness we want. We really have put in harm's way all of the forces. And when you betray that type of code and you betray security, then what we have is a failure at the highest levels. And I just wish the senior generals and admirals would start standing up rather than falling in line with all these political cronies, and that'll be on my only political statement here today. So, Billy, you understand what happened to Aaron, and the enemy, we feel, basically knew what was happening. It was an ambush.
Yeah.
Yes, General. We definitely believe that by the testimony, first of all, by the testimony of the AC-130 gun crew and the way that they described that the enemy, some of the enemy immediately pulled away without even engaging the Rangers, left with heavy weapons and small arms, and they moved described by the AC-130 crew, moved tactically down the valley, going from door to door, gathering men up, and in fact, by the time that the chopper was approaching, they had more or less a triangular design where they would be three corners behind the chopper after it landed. Not realizing, not thinking probably that they would be able to take the chopper down with an RPG, but they were well set up to engage the SEALs, it appears, as they stepped off that chopper. And on that chopper that night, there were 7 Afghans who were not the same men whose names were on the manifest. And we, as the General said early on, at the end of this book, you're going to see that there's still a lot of questions not answered. And we're finding out more and more puzzling things that lead, questions that the answers lead to more questions all the time. Just recently, I know Tom and Mark, y'all met Bob McCarty, and he's been in contact with the General, and we've read his book, and it just, when the General was talking, it just made me think of a couple things in his book that he stated about when the General was talking about the Taliban and how they're infiltrating. right now there's a group called the OCG, and I've been told by a military insider that the U.S. military is not allowed to properly vet the members of the OCG. They work directly for Karzai. And in Mr. McCarty's book, The Clapper Memo, I read in there that these men who are picked by the OCG, the resumes come in from their villages. And all they have to have, they can get 2 recommendations from an imam, from 2 different imams, 2 different clergy in their village.
Of course, yeah.
The imams can be radical Islamists. They can. There's no qualifications
what
for the
other
imam
kind of
except that they're
imam is
religious
there?
men, and recommend these Taliban, these men from, like the general said, all different tribes. And, you don't blame the Afghans. It's just like the general said. You have to blame the guys, the superior guys in our military who are responsible for making sure that our guys on the ground are protected as they, try to defend our republic. And who you wouldn't let your children play ball with those people, knowing what we know about them, But yet, our military puts them on a chopper with our military, and they have weapons and whatever. It's been said to me by a retired SEAL. One of our greatest fears about going out is that we're going to have a suicide bomber step on a chopper with us, and he said we've told our leaders that. We're afraid we're going to get shot in the back by the Allies on the ops with us. Mr. Vaughn, you can't believe how many Mexican standoffs we've actually had while out on ops with these Afghan allies.
That's amazing.
Why do you think...
Sounds like,
wait, let Damon go.
Well, I just want to finish up. So it sounds like both of them have said that the enemy, that we are doing exactly what the enemy wants to have done. And that's just insane. Why would you want to run a military like that?
Insane, yeah.
If you don't want a military and you want a deconstructed United States of America with open borders and no national boundaries, then all of this makes sense.
Ben Smith is a good friend of ours and of the general and of Billy's. I asked them a couple of months ago, and Ben's a former SEAL. I said, Ben, can you right now, recommend to a friend or family member to join the United States military right now? This is a SEAL, former SEAL.
A Navy SEAL, right.
And he said, no, I cannot. Yeah. Damon, you got a question?
Yeah, it's kind of a 2-part, and it has to do with going forward from here. It was in the news recently that Obama and Karzai have been butting heads about leaving troops in Afghanistan after the pullout, and it was discussed that we're going to leave none. And it just seems like Karzai is kind of dictating the terms, and it just seems like they're forgetting why we were there in the first place, that we invaded them for harboring the Taliban that was harboring Osama bin Laden, and it just seems like, if we deem it necessary to leave troops there, that's our decision. I don't understand how the tables got turned to where it seems like we're taking orders from the Afghanis. And then I guess the second kind of having to do with that is also I saw Pakistan came out with a report last week stating that they viewed our capture killing of Osama bin Laden as, quote, an act of war.
Right.
And I know you're talking about in the book, betrayed, meaning how the United States has betrayed our soldiers, but I also think that we are being betrayed by our quote unquote allies in the region.
General?
Well, I think that's true. If we look at Iraq now, which basically is under almost the total influence of Iran, who is designated Israel and America as the enemies to be defeated, we see that all the money, even $68 billion now, just came out a couple of weeks ago, they still can't account for in Iraq. But yet we let the Iraqis at the end over there sort of drive everything regarding U.S. policy and us appeasing them. So we withdraw, take all the troops out, left billions of dollars of equipment over there, materials, and of course a number of lives and wounded for forever. And so I asked the question, what did we get from Iraq? Zero for the American people.
Exactly.
Zero return for the American people. Now, after 12 years in Afghanistan, what is the return today to the American people? Not
It's
the
less than
Afghans,
zero.
but the
It's-
American people, because of our blood and our human resources.
Yeah.
So that's why the answer to your question is we need new leadership in America. We need a new way of doing business in the world, that we have people that understand the world. I'm the only senior person that's been over in the Syrian area and have met with the commanders over there. But yet they don't call me and say, well, what do you think we should do?
Right.
And so you send inept people like John Kerry around, and then you have inept people like Brennan at the head of the CIA, but they don't take advantage of people that really understand the Middle East and bring them into the fold and say, hey, we need a new strategy.
Yeah,
They're
because
not interested in that. They have another agenda.
That's right. That's why they don't call you, because you're not going to be in sync with what their agenda is. Can I ask you this as a military man? If you were in the military now, if you were a major general in the military now, active duty, would you be able to keep your mouth shut while all this was going on? Because it seems to me
Good
like
question.
the top brass who's in there now, they either agree with it or they're rolling over, playing dead and silent while this is happening.
And isn't it your duty and obligation?
Isn't
to do
it
so?
treason
Right.
not to protect the United States of America if that's what your sworn duty is?
Well, I go back to the code at West Point, duty, honor, country. We do not lie, cheat, or steal, or tolerate those that do. We've had General Dempsey and Secretary Panetta lying in front of Congress that we had no assets over in the Benghazi area to even attempt a rescue mission, a blatant lie.
Yes.
Right.
And so they tolerate what happened to duty, honor, and country. We don't lie, cheat, or steal. They've
Right.
disbanded it. They have forgot about the Constitution. They all should be removed. And if I was a major general today, I hope they'd promote me to 4 or 5 stars, and I would reorganize everything that makes common sense in the world today and get rid of anybody that can't stand up and say, duty, honor, and country, God bless America, save the Constitution. And if they can't do that, they're out of Dodge.
Billy,
Why
Judge,
don't
comment
they
on that?
quit?
How do we
Why don't they quit if they feel?
Because they
Why
are-
do they stay
they're-
in then?
They're
If
inches
Career.
away
Career.
from
Career.
great jobs at defense contractors, great jobs on boards, millions and millions of dollars of salary. It's very sad. And we've had some folks on Team B too actually analyze the number of these flag officers, generals that have gone over to the dark side. It's about 300.
Yeah, they actually
in
believe it. Like
Washington.
Billy was saying earlier about this admiral who said we want to win their hearts and minds. What kind of stupidity is that? What kind of stupidity is it for a general to participate in like the slaughtering of a goat or something like that, so he knows?
How do you win the hearts and minds of heartless, mindless individuals?
Good grief.
The Marine that urinated on the dead Taliban,
Right.
he got
right.
in trouble and he got court-martialed and he got fined and all
He
that.
said he'd still do it again
Said
today.
he'd do it again.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he said he'd do it again, and he did it because they can't touch that body.
Right.
The body is.
This
but
reminds
what
me-
he said, and you can disagree with all that, but what he said was very interesting. He says America's got to make up their mind. Do they want Marines to go in there and kill people, or are they looking for Boy Scouts? What is America looking
Well,
That's
at?
a job
thing
for the
is,
Peace Corps.
Americans want the United States of America defended, and they want the Marines and the Army and the Navy and the Air Force to defend the United States of America and the Constitution of the United States of America. The political leaders and the elites of the media and the elites of the military do not want the same thing. How do we get control back from the people who are in charge?
And is
DJ,
there,
let me try to answer that for you quickly. That's why we're writing the book. I hope you're right that that's what the American people want.
I know
That's why
that's
the
what they
general and I are writing this book. Karen and I, for over a year, well over a year, have been trying to get people's attention. We've talked to members of Congress. We've done this and we've done that, and we've talked to the military, and in talking to the military and getting answers from some of the high-ranking military officials is why I involved the general. I had to bring in somebody who could tell me if I was way off base in what I was thinking, or if some of the things that I was seeing were troubling. And just let me say that Aaron, Aaron said a long time ago, Dad, they hate us, but they fear us. Lethal force is all they respect. You know what? They still hate us, but they don't fear us anymore, and they don't respect us not because of our warriors, but because of our appeasing government.
That's right.
And I don't see how that is going to change, but for some sort of revolution, and not at this point a revolution where we pick up arms and all of that. I mean, we need a revolution at the ballot box. We need a revolution in our cultural understanding of what right and wrong is. And General, you've done a lot of work on this. Give us about a minute of your view of the type revolution that's needed to put America back on track.
Well, if you look historically, Tom, all revolutions have come about because of tyrannical governments, because of excess taxation. Becomes very economic in revolutions when you look back.
Right.
So when you look at the disturbances we have now with a government that's almost $17 trillion in debt spending, grossest amount of money in government that's being wasted. We see the IRS investigations. We see the other agencies of the government. It's basically a government's gone amok. Now, unless they can change at the ballot box to satisfy the American people, there will be a revolution. And a lot of people think it can't happen in the United States. Well, it can happen because the people at some point in time will say enough is enough, and they'll rebel. And they'll rebel against their government, and they're going to want their government to step down. And even in the old days, take them to the gallows. And that may not happen in Washington, D.C., but I can see a situation where we demand, and it's been brought up and discussed, I can tell you that, and some are saying we have to set aside our Constitution, just like they did in Egypt, for a period of 6 months until a very responsible group of leaders can take over America and get us back on track again. That would be the revolution.
Wow, this is out of the box thinking, and I see a friend of ours, Karen, there. We have about 1 minute left,
Billy
Karen.
Billy looks a lot better on camera.
Oh yeah,
Billy, you have so changed.
I knew you'd
your
like
makeup
that.
person was coming.
Where have you been, Karen? We have about 1 minute. Go ahead. Your thoughts, Karen.
My encouragement to everybody that's listening today is buy this book, not just so that we can bump up sales, but here's the point. Americans need to understand what's happening to their military. This is our sons and daughters, our brave fighting men and women, and if we don't get involved in what's going on with them, then shame on us. So buy this book, find out what's going on, listen to what the general has to say. He's a great, mighty man of valor who has served this country faithfully, and his words are honorable and true. And Billy, is a dad who gave his son, and so is General Vallely, by the way. I know you've probably spoken about this already, but people need to understand what's happening. And like Billy said a few minutes ago, we've been completely unsuccessful trying to get this word out through the mainstream media. They do not want to hear it. Nobody wants to pay attention to what's happening 7,000 miles away right now. But America needs to wake up, and we need to defend our defenders.
All right, and on that note, we got to end. How much is the book,
Thank
by
you,
the
Karen.
way? How much is the book?
It's $12.95 through the rest of July. Then it will go to its normal retail
right.
price of $17.95.
We're going to buy 100 copies here at the United West, and then we'll give them out. So you guys sign them, we'll buy 100. Okay, how's that?
Okay.
Take
Thank you.
care.
Thank you,
We'll
everybody,
see you.
for
Great
coming
job,
on.
guys. All right,
Bye bye.
that's
Have a
it.
good
We got to
day.
go.
Bye-bye.
Great show. Great show.
Bye-bye.
Good job.